All right, now we're good. Okay. The committee will come back to order. Now, pursuant to notice, I call up a report containing a resolution recommending that the House of Representatives find Secretary of State Hillary R. Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusal to...
We have to finish, Bill.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Point of order. State your point.
Are the amendments going to precede the vote on the two resolutions, or is it the other way around?
We'll vote on the amendments. We're going to roll everything to the end of the committee so we can have everybody
Okay,
back in here to vote on.
Good. Thank you.
All right. So I just read that. All right. As I was saying, pursuant to notice, I call up a report containing a resolution recommending that the House of Representatives find Secretary of State Hillary R. Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusal to comply with a duly issued subpoena issued by this committee. The clerk will report the report, which has been distributed in advance.
A report containing a House resolution recommending that the House of Representatives find former Secretary of State Hillary R. Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusal to comply with a duly issued subpoena issued by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform.
I ask unanimous consent that the report be considered as read and open for amendment at any point without objection. So ordered. The chair recognizes himself to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute. The clerk will please report the amendment.
An amendment in the nature of a substitute offered to the contempt report is offered by Mr. Comer of Kentucky.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read, and the substitute will be considered as original text for the purposes of further amendment. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for a statement on the report. As with President Clinton, the committee believes that Secretary Clinton possesses information that is relevant to this committee's investigation. Specifically, Secretary Clinton's testimony may shed light on the activities of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and their efforts to establish relationships and curry favor with influential people. As former Secretary of State, Clinton may also have information regarding the federal government's efforts to combat international sex trafficking. Secretary Clinton's refusal to discuss that information in person and on the record directly obstructs the committee's investigation. The committee must enforce these bipartisan subpoenas through bipartisan support of this contempt of Congress resolution. I urge all my colleagues to support this contempt report, and I now yield to Ranking Member Garcia for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Comer. I just want to again just repeat that once again, Oversight Democrats have been clear that we want to hear from anyone with knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. We made that clear earlier. We'll continue to make that clear. One thing that's important to note is that on numerous occasions, Secretary Clinton has made statements, both in the public and to this committee, that she has no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein or his activities. And I just want to put that into the record. It's not clear to me, as it's not clear to many others, as to why Secretary Clinton has been a target of this investigation. The Secretary submitted a sworn declaration under penalty of perjury that she had no memory of ever meeting Mr. Epstein, never flew on his plane, and never held any office with responsibility for investigating his activities. She testified to having met Ghislaine Maxwell, possibly in passing, but did not have a relationship with her. Now, Oversight Republicans did not pursue subpoenas to former attorneys general and FBI officials who certified that they had no knowledge of the case. And Hillary Clinton should have her subpoena dealt with in the same way. Again, I think having and asking questions of Secretary Clinton is appropriate to this committee. It's also appropriate that we deal with her case in the way we have dealt with others that have been able to answer in writing or have been dismissed by the majority. At least up to this point, the evidence that we've collected by our committee support Secretary Clinton's assertions. No one who is serious about justice for Epstein survivors believes that Hillary Clinton has somehow been involved in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. We also know that, of course, that Donald Trump is very clear about weaponizing against his opponents. In fact, he's famously, of course, led the call to lock her up since the 26 election campaign and is clearly moving forward to do the same. You know, a contempt resolution against Hillary Clinton would expose a weaponization in this Epstein investigation. If we have additional questions for Secretary Clinton, we should ask those, we should work with her and her team, and we should get her to answer those in front of the committee. But again, this is an attempt to politicize and attack Donald Trump's political enemies. We need to ensure that we hear from folks that are critical to this investigation, and at the center of that are folks like Pam Bondi, who will not be appearing in front of this committee, to be clear, but the Judiciary Committee, and Ghislaine Maxwell, which it's finally we're about to actually hopefully get some additional answers from her. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Bell from Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I found it interesting that you acknowledge that Pam Bondi is not moving at a speed or pace to your liking. And I think the biggest concern for many of us who are looking at not only ensuring a real investigation to give these victims, these survivors, the respect that they deserve and the justice that they deserve, but it just appears over and over that we are not using the same standards as a result of partisanship. Again, having conducted and these types of investigations as a district attorney, you don't skip steps. If the evidence is there, you review the evidence and you follow where that evidence leads you. You review the evidence, develop your theory of the case, and then you conduct your investigation based on the evidence. Now, there are times when you don't have the evidence and you do have to try and investigate in different ways to try to get that evidence. But in this case, we have the evidence. This Congress voted on a bipartisan basis to have that evidence released. But yet, we're trying to skip steps for political points. And again, Mr. Chair, you acknowledged Pam Bondi not moving at the speed or pace that you like, but you were still comfortable with the 1% of the files that we got. 1%, 99% not, we still don't have anything. Not 20%, not 30% we're missing, or 40 or 50. 99% of the files that we're missing. But yet, there's no criminal contempt push with respect to Pam Bondi or any urgency, but yet the legal analysis for criminal contempt is that there is no cooperation, that there's no negotiation, because the case law, the courts have determined as long as there is negotiation, good faith negotiation, you have to give time for that. And that's not moving at the speed and pace or pace that the committee prefers. But in this case, we're jumping right to criminal contempt. And what I would say is, like, just about every member that on my side of the aisle has said, we want to talk to anyone who has evidence pertaining to these survivors. Anyone. And if we go down, and I want to hear from the Clintons, if this committee is successful in going down a criminal pathway, we're not going to hear from them. And that defeats the purpose. You get your political points, but it defeats the purpose. And so at the appropriate time, if anyone were refusing to work with this committee, and as we've seen with the affidavits, this does not apply to the Clintons. If anyone refuses to come to this committee without, and just ignores it, then all of us will support the appropriate remedies. But in this case, it's clear that this is a partisan attack to try and score points as opposed to actually trying to do a real investigation to give the survivors in this case the justice that they deserve. And this committee, this Congress, should be above that. I yield my time to the ranking member if he so chooses.
I'm okay, thank you, Mr. Church.
I'll recognize myself for a few seconds. Our report lays out that Hillary Clinton had both a personal relationship with Maxwell as well as a financial relationship with Epstein. She's had 5 months as well to come before this committee. We voted in a bipartisan manner to issue her a very lawful subpoena, and she's chosen not to comply with that subpoena. So,
And Pam
does any
Bondi,
other members seek recognition? Mr. Lynch?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so we're not seeking information from Secretary Clinton because of her own, look, there's nothing in any of the documents that we've received from either the estate or from the Department of Justice. There's no indication from talking to the witnesses or the witnesses' attorneys that Mrs. Clinton had anything to do with this. And yet, we're trying to issue a criminal contempt charge because of her reluctance to appear. None of those documents, there's no indication that she has anything to do with this. I'm not surprised that she's reluctant to appear. She had nothing to do with this. And if we're seeking the other count, the other basis for our inquiry from the charge and from the resolution is that as in her official capacity as Secretary of State, she may have information regarding sex trafficking in general. But that is not unique to Mrs. Clinton. We could summon the Special Undersecretary for Sex Trafficking at the State Department if we really wanted to find out information of that nature. Or we could summon any other Secretary of State who has served since 2008, I think, when some of this was first uncovered in depth, but it had nothing to do with the Secretary of State. Then it was between Mar-a-Lago and Jeffrey Epstein. It went from young girls being trafficked from Mar-a-Lago to Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And there's no nexus there between Donald Trump's club and the young girls that were trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein. There's no nexus there where the Secretary of State might intervene. So, with all due respect, I think her name was put in there because of the animosity with which the president regards her. And this goes back to, a political race between those two candidates and has nothing to do with the information that Secretary Clinton might be able to offer. I want to hear from everyone who has information on this. However, we don't have a shred of evidence that Mrs. Clinton has meaningful information to assist this committee. But I know where there is evidence. I know Pam Bondi has had millions and millions and millions of documents that she has refused to surrender to this committee for the past 5 months, 6 months. I know where there's also other evidence. Sitting in a luxury prison, Ghislaine Maxwell, who should be before this committee, should never have been taken out of that original prison by President Trump's personal attorney, and by doing so made her less likely to be willing to offer testimony and evidence to this committee. That is witness tampering. When you take someone who's been convicted of a crime, remove them from uncomfortable settings, put them in a nice place. Just keep your mouth shut, honey. That's all. That's what was going on there. We know that. All of a sudden, she gets a sweetheart deal. They're bringing in pets for her. They're giving her the royal treatment now. As long as you keep your mouth shut, honey, that's what they're saying to her. Just keep your mouth shut and don't mention the president. That's the scam that's going on here. That's witness tampering, plain and simple. And yet you have someone who served this country, Secretary of State, elected U.S. Senator, has nothing to do with this, but because it gratifies the president that you dust her up and ruin her reputation. This is beneath what we should be doing. We should strike the motion to summon her before this committee. We should drop this effort to hold her in criminal contempt. I yield back.
And with all due respect, if you didn't want to subpoena Hillary Clinton, the Democrats on the subcommittee should not have voted to subpoena Hillary Clinton.
Mr. Comer, can I clarify that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear that we have the video. Committee Democrats actually voted no by voice vote.
You had an opportunity for a roll call and you declined it.
We voted.
You called for it, and then staff came to you and you said,
Mr. Comer, actually, you weren't there, so I actually don't think
I
that
watched the video too.
Would you like to show the video? I mean, the video is very clear. We actually all voted no. I just want to be clear that in the initial vote, all Democrats voted no. Thank you.
That's why we have recorded votes. And you all declined that. So, does any other member seek recognition? Seeing none. The question is now on the amendment in the nature of a substitute to the Hillary R. Clinton contempt report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment in the nature of substitute to the report is agreed to. The question is now on favorably reporting the Hillary R. Clinton report as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment to the nature of substitute to the report is agreed to.
Recorded vote, sir.
A recorded vote was ordered. As previously announced, further proceedings on the question will be postponed. Pursuant to the previous order, the chair declares the committee in recess subject to the call of the chair. We plan to reconvene at 3:15. 3:15. The committee stands in recess.